Hi, it's Wednesday, and that means it's time for another video edition of Widower Wednesday. I'm Abel Keogh, author of the book Dating a Widower, and today we're going to discuss how to forgive a widower and why forgiving widowers are important. I see a huge need for this in the coaching sessions that I've had lately, or emails that find their way to my inbox. And I'm sure most of you that are watching this have been in situations where a widower has done or said things that are stupid, rude, or inconsiderate. Sometimes their words or actions leave you feeling sad, angry, or even frustrated. Other times you maybe feel taken advantage of when you've given your heart to a widower only to have the relationship come to an end with no explanation as to why. But whatever your situation is, and no matter the offense, it's vital that you forgive the widower and move on with your life. Now, I know that many of you are thinking that forgiveness is easier said and done, especially when you feel used, manipulated, and cheated on by the widower. I hear you and understand that many of you listening to this have been seriously wronged by the widower you are dating, or the widower you are, or even are married to, or were married to. But let me explain a little bit about why you need to start the process of forgiving a widower if you haven't done that already. So first of all, a little bit about forgiveness. Really, forgiveness is the process of letting go of the past and the pain you've experienced at the hands of others. And the purpose of forgiveness, it really isn't to change the other person's behavior, though that can happen. The real purpose of forgiveness is to find inner peace and regain control of your life. So instead of being angry, bitter, or upset about something the widower did to hurt you, or how he manipulated you, or whatever happened, you can find peace. And honestly, forgiving others is really one of the greatest things that we can do for ourselves. I'm going to tell some stories about that in a sec. But if you do hold grudges or bitter feelings toward others, I guarantee you will never truly be happy again. You'll never be able to move forward, and you really, no matter how bad or sideways things have gone, you need to be able to move forward with your life. Now, I get it. Depending on what the widower did, there may be some hurt that's always there, is always part of your life. But forgiveness can lessen its grip on you and help you focus on more positive things. Now, forgiving someone doesn't mean that you deny the other person's responsibility for the actions, or you minimize or justify the wrong they've done. It also doesn't mean that you become a doormat for the offender and let him continue to use and abuse you. That's not what forgiveness is. But basically, it means that if you forgive them, you can think about them, or if you happen to run into them when you're out and about, you're no longer filled with rage, resentments, or feeling of hostility towards them. Either you simply don't care, or you're kind of maybe even feel bad for them. There's things like that. But now, in a perfect world, I know some of you are thinking, well, in order for me to forgive the widower for the things he's done, he has to acknowledge his mistakes and ask for forgiveness. And I agree that in a perfect world, a widower who did hurt you would acknowledge his mistakes and ask for your forgiveness. But our world is far from perfect. We're filled with humans, and humans are not perfect. And we often find ourselves being harmed by someone, in some cases, who may not even think they've done anything wrong or even care if they've ruined your life. And this means you have to be able to forgive the person even if they don't realize the mistake or think they've done anything wrong. So let me give you some examples, or give you a specific example of this. For many of you who have read my books and know my story, before I met Julie, I met a woman that I call Jennifer. We got into a very short but a very serious and intense relationship. It was, this, I don't know. Let's be honest. It was a relationship that should have happened, but I kept it going. And then once I met Julie and fell in love with her, I unceremoniously dumped Jennifer. You can read all about that in Room for Two if you want. Now, after I dumped her, Jennifer was understandably mad and upset and sad for a long time. And yeah, I guess understandably and justifiably so. I didn't treat her that great. I kind of led her on. I admit that. But so anyway, so that happened with Jennifer, and this is the story, though I really don't tell a lot, is that I finally did reach out to Jennifer about 7 years ago. So this is maybe, I don't know, do the math here, 12 or 13 years after we broke up. We have some common friends on social media, and I saw that she had, I don't know, liked somebody's post, and I kind of thought to myself, I really need to apologize to Jennifer and tell her I'm sorry, and talk about the things that, say, I really treated you bad and I'm sorry. So I reached out through her through social media, sent her a short message, and basically just apologized and said, yeah, you didn't deserve that. I'm sorry, I did it. A few days later, she responded, and this is the first time we've probably communicated in 12 or 13 years. years, and she let me know that she had forgiven me. Actually, that she did forgive me, and actually she had forgiven me many years ago. But it was nice to hear her say that, hey, I forgive you, and whatever, what happened happened, and things are fine. Now, Jennifer and I aren't friends on social media, and I doubt we're gonna be buddies anytime soon. But I do know that if we bump into each other again by chance, if fate throws us in each other's paths, there's not going to be any hard feelings there, and we could probably just ask how each other is doing and go on with our day. And I think I'll be honest here. Jennifer is a pretty good example of how to kind of forgive and move forward. Again, now, to be fair, it's not something that happened overnight with her. It took her a while to get there, but she had reached that point and was able to move on with her life. And in her case, moving on with her life meant, getting married to somebody else and having kids and a family with them. And she has a happy life. But I guarantee Jennifer couldn't have got there if she hadn't forgiven me at some point. She probably wouldn't have got married and moved on and done her thing if she harbored a lot of anger and resentment towards me. So I'm glad she's forgiven me, and she got some closure on it. Granted, 13 years or so after the fact, but she got some closure on it, and I think that's important. Anyway, now you may not get closure, but if you want to take a lesson from a Jennifer side of things, it is possible to go in there and forgive a widower regardless whether or not he comes back and apologizes for his behavior. Now, let me give you another story of forgiveness. This time, I'm going to be the one that is wronged here. I don't just say it's important to forgive someone just because I say it. As they say in the business world, I eat my own dog food here. Forgiving someone for their actions is a very personal thing for me, and it's something I learned personally when I was dating Juliana. As Juliana and I were laying the foundation for our relationship, my heart and mind was still full of a lot of anger toward Krista. For taking her own life and in the process killing our unborn daughter. For those who don't know the story, I recommend you read Room for Two, but Krista was 7 months pregnant when she killed herself, and as a result, I had to take our daughter, Hope, off life support 9 days after she was born. Not exactly the highlight of my life there. But anyway, for a long time after Krista, was gone, I was always just angry at her for taking her life, angry at her for doing it while she was pregnant, and putting me through all that ordeal with Hope. But it didn't take me long, even despite all this anger I had, and here I am trying to move on with Juliana. It didn't take me long to realize that my anger for Krista was stopping me from really opening my heart and giving it to Juliana. And I realized pretty soon that I was faced with a choice. I could continue feeling angry and resentful towards Krista, or I could forgive her and move on with my life. And as I thought about what to do, I realized just how special Juliana was to me, and that I would do anything to give the relationship a chance of turning into something that could last the rest of our lives. My problem was, though, is I didn't know how to forgive Krista, as it wasn't like she was around to give me an apology or to make amends for her actions. I still had to figure out a way to forgive her. And for me, it took a lot of prayer and meditation, and I was learning to control my feelings. When anger welled up inside me, I had to work on ways to replace those bad feelings with good ones. I don't want anyone to think this was an easy process or something that happened overnight. It didn't. And there were days that I was so mad and the anger and sadness overwhelmed me, I thought it would never go away. But little by little, I chipped away at the heartache and anguish and worked on forgiving her. And then one fall morning, this was probably about 10, 11 months after Krista died, I reached a point where I could forgive her. I just remember it was a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning. I remember, I got up and went into the kitchen to get some food to eat, and I looked outside, and it was just one of those perfect fall days. There was reds and yellows and oranges in the trees in the field next door, and the sun was up, and just that, kind of like that morning fall light, and the colors were just brilliant. And I paused for a moment, and I looked out that window and just took in this beautiful scene. And, as I was kind of sitting there just enjoying the beauty of that fall morning, my mind kind of drifted over to Krista. And for the first time since she had taken her own life, I was able to think about her with any kind of angry feelings or sad feelings. And I was able to say in my mind, Krista, I forgive you. And it was just this sincere thing of, Krista, kind of what happened. I forgive you. And it was immediately just filled with this wonderful feeling of peace. And in that moment, this burden, you just don't realize that this burden, that when you have anger towards somebody, had this burden on my shoulders and it had been weighing me down. It was just gone. And it felt so good to have that burden off my shoulders. And I remember I was actually, I actually started crying because it just felt so good to be free of these feelings that I had been holding back, that just been holding inside of me for so long. No one likes, I understand that anger is kind of like this normal emotion, but if you really think about it, I mean, it's not good to be angry all the time and to be bitter all the time, and how just that changes you. And I felt at that moment, I could just feel that anger burden just gone, and I knew that I could move on with my life, and I knew that I could start a new chapter with Juliana. So maybe something to think about here is, what kind of feelings are holding you back? Do you have anger? Just think of your life and think how much time and energy you're dealing towards this anger, and how do you move through it? And this whole principle of forgiveness is not just limited to Jennifer and my relationship with my relationship with Krista. This is something that Juliana and I have, since we've tied the knot, we've both had to learn to forgive each other for stupid things that we've done and said. And, to be honest, they haven't been these big mistakes, but, we're human and we make mistakes, and we do the wrong things or say the wrong things sometimes. We've had to learn to move forward and forgive each other. And I really, that's a big reason we've been able to be married for 19 years, is we've been able to kind of forgive and forget and move on. Now, I know a lot of you are watching this thinking like, oh, that's, those are great stories, but how do they help me? How can I start the process anyway of forgiving my widower, or even somebody else that's wronged me? And I get it. Forgiveness isn't a one-size-fit-all solution, and how to go about forgiving someone, it differs from one person to another. As I said, my journey of personal forgiveness for Krista, it involved a lot of prayer and meditation. That may or may not work for you. I do recommend it, but it may not work for you. And I also understand that again, as forgiveness isn't just like turning off and on a light. Sometimes it's a process, and you've got to reach a point where you can honestly forgive someone. And I understand that process may take years sometime, and that's okay. But I think even if it does take years or months or whatever, you've got to start the process, right? You've got to start it now, because if you wait a week or a month or a year, you're not going to be any farther along, and you've just kind of wasted that time where you could be working on forgiveness. But no matter where you're at, whether you're just started or trying to, maybe you've reached a point where you can maybe forgive someone for what they did to you, I want to give you 5 ideas that can help you at the very least kind of just get started on your journey, and maybe some of these things will be helpful to kind of help move you forward again, no matter where you're at. So the first thing I suggest you do is to get rid of anything that reminds you of the pain. Or of that person, right? So there's something cathartic, I think, about getting rid of physical objects that remind you of a bad experience. And so again, if you have whatever photos or letters or a gift or something that he gave you, I don't know, maybe he gave you some clothes or whatever it is, anything that kind of reminds you that this person was in your life, I would get rid of it. And I would throw it away and just get rid of it. There's no reason to actually keep it around, because again, there's these subtle reminders. I talk all the time when I talk to widowers how one of the reasons we take photos down is because there's little subtle reminders that kind of hold them back from moving forward. So do you have things in your life that when you see them, it reminds you of this the widower that hurt you? So what can you do to to get rid of reminders? And I guess I would include not only physical objects, but anything on social media as well. Have you blocked them on social media? Have you blocked their phone numbers? So again, you're not seeing things that they like, things that they post. If they're reaching, they don't have a way to really reach out to you. If you block their email address, things like that, block their number on your phone. Just get rid of things. You don't have to have this reminder of this person was once in your life and all the, excuse me, all the things, all the things that they did. So get rid of things that remind you or that will pull you back. If you haven't already, I say the second thing I recommend is to have one good venting session. And whether you need to talk to a friend or talk to a professional or a counselor or a therapist or something, or you just want to go someplace private where you can scream to the top of your lungs, or you need to write your feelings out on paper. Again, we have all different ways of dealing with this. I suggest you have one good vetting session where you can get all the anger, confusion, or all the negative feelings you have out. If you just need to just talk to somebody and say blah blah blah, this guy beep 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 beep, and just get it out, get it out. But again, I think it's something you can really only do once, so you have to make it a good one. If you're going to have a venting session, it has to be a world-class venting session, and you've just got to get it all out in order for it to be truly effective. Because if you keep having these mini venting sessions, no, that's not going to be helpful. But if you want one really good venting session, I say go for it and get it all out of there. The third point I would recommend is don't seek revenge. I know that when someone hurts us, it's normal to want to get even and hurt them back or ruin their lives or, I don't know, be a thorn in their side or whatever it is. And while that might bring short-term relief, in the long run, it's not going to do anything other than make the situation worse. It's going to make your anger feel worse because, let's be honest, if you're out there thinking about them and plotting revenge, you're really not moving forward with your life. You're really not forgiving them. You're basically stooped to their level. There's a reason. I guess if you are going to seek revenge, they say revenge is a dish best served cold. Honestly, I would say the best revenge is just living well and being happy again. If you really want to make someone that wronged you, make him, especially like in a romantic relationship, think that, wow, what was I thinking? You go out there and live a happy life, so when next time they see you, they say, oh, look, she's with so and so now, and whatever, her life's great. You know what? That's the best kind of revenge, is to go out and honestly go out and live your life. And you do it and you stop caring about that person. You just kind of block them out from your mind, you forgive them and move on with life. That is by far the best revenge. But trying to destroy them or weaken them or bring yourself down to their level, not a good way to do it. It never works out. I've never seen I've heard a lot in my sessions, but I've talked to people that have been very angry and bitter and tried to ruin the other person's life, and it doesn't make them happy. So there's that. The fourth step you can take is to stop thinking like a victim. Remember, you have no control over the actions or thoughts of others, and what happened. So stop seeing yourself as a victim of his idiocy or, whatever, a failed romance or whatever it is. When you see yourself as a victim, basically what you do is you're allowing that person to have control over you, even though they're no longer in your life. You've got to shed the victim mentality. You are in control of your life. You are in control of your actions. That person is not. And no matter how bad that person treated you, and yes, I understand there might be some emotional scars and things like that out there. I'm not trying to minimize that. What I'm talking about is changing your mindset and stop thinking like you're a victim of something that happens and rise above it. In fact, it's the same pep talk I give the widowers. They got to stop thinking of themselves as widowers and someone who has basically lost their spouse, because that's how they define their lives. And you know what? When widowers define their lives through their loss, they can't move on. If you define your life through what somebody did or said or how they treated you, you can't move on either, and you won't be happy. Exact same principle. So, and the fifth and final thing, and this works across all, no matter where you are in the forgiveness process, whether you're starting out or trying to overcome that thing, the best thing you can do, honestly, to forgive people is to serve others. There is always someone out there that is hurting more than you are. Try to do at least one kind thing for someone every day. Find it, whether it's people at work or people in your family or people in your neighborhood or whatever. Try to do something, one kind act of service for somebody every day. It'll completely change your life. It will completely change the way that you go about it and see your life and see your problems. Doing good and focusing your thoughts on others goes a long way toward moving on and finding that inner peace. Guarantee it. I've never seen that the acts of serving others fail. Never seen it fail. I've never seen it not change people. So, in summary, when a widower does or says something stupid, insensitive, or cruel, or dumps you, or whatever he's done to you, whether you're in a relationship or not, you've got to be willing to stand up, dust yourself off, and move on with your life. Doesn't matter if the widower's infraction was a big one or a small one. Do not let anger, hatred, or other feelings canker your soul, guys. Not worth it. Trust me, I deal with people all the time in my coaching sessions who are working through this, and I have to say, I've seen people work through it, and the transformation emotion that they have when they're not angry or anything anymore is just wonderful, and they're brand new people and they move on and they're so happy. And personally, I don't know where my life would be if I'd let anger or sadness or resentment take it over, if I had kept those feelings towards Krista. But I don't know where my life would be, but I know where it wouldn't be, and I wouldn't be married to Juliana. I wouldn't have the wonderful family that I have, and I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now, or just have the happiness that I enjoy. Forgive, forget, move on with life. It may not be the easiest thing you've ever done, but it will be the best thing that you can do for your life. I guarantee it. I'm Abel Keogh, author of the book Dating a Widower. Feel free to leave a comment, like, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, so you know when new Widower Wednesday videos are coming out. If you got a story you want to share, leave them in the comments as well, and I will see you next Wednesday.